and I'll never back down. In the middle of the ring is where I lay the smack down. Against all odds, I will always prevail. So when you step to me, it's like hell in a cell.
Greetings and salutations, this is Christopher Daniels. I'm talking to my main man Delzinski right now. Any video game show, any video game channel, any YouTube channel called Vintage Shizzle is indeed hashtag Daniels approved.
Yo, alright guys, Delzinski here. Welcome to another We Talk. It's a We Talk weekend. And the professor, for some reason, never came back from his shopping trip with Mike Tenay. So I have got a special guest with me today. Yes, I have SmackTalks with me. How are you doing, Paul?
Alright man, it's good to be back. I'm
Yes.
good, how are you?
I'm very good, and it's great to welcome you back on the show. Yes, I don't know where the professor has gone, to be perfectly honest. He's gone AWOL, so yeah, weird.
I'm happy to fill in for him.
Excellent stuff. I mean, it's been an interesting week, and we are going to be talking about WWE Fastlane, which is this Sunday night. But as well, there's been quite a lot of going on behind the scenes with the likes of Joe leaving TNA, Matt Hardy and the Disco Inferno, Cesaro being hacked, and the WWE doctors laying the smacketh down on CM Punk. So there's lots of news, and guys, if you want to keep up to date with me and SmackTalks, you can follow us both on Twitter. So you've got @Delzinski, that's my Twitter tag, and @SmackNetwork for Paul's Twitter as well. So go and follow us on there, and also follow me on Instagram @Delzinski for loads of pictures and all other crazy shizzle. But let's get into it. So, Paul, did you hear about Samoa Joe leaving TNA?
I did. I was really excited by this news. I've been hoping he'd leave for quite a while now. The last couple of years, Joe, in TNA, he's gone from being their top guy and he putting on some amazing matches to the kind of guy that didn't seem to know what to do about. He's sort of changed sort of his style and his gimmick and things, his look, and it hasn't really worked. He's kind of gone a lot downhill. So I think if the time now leaving TNA, it gives him huge opportunity. I think he might have hinted about joining the Bullet Club, but I would love to see him join NXT. I noticed Paul Heyman tweeted out saying that he'd left TNA, which kind of got people speculating that he could be the next Paul Heyman guy, and that is something I think would be absolutely perfect for Joe. But I can't see Vince bringing him up to the main roster. I don't think he's the look that Vince is looking for. But because Triple H has NXT, I think that is the perfect thing to bring Joe in NXT. Have some amazing matches with the talent down there and just show what he can do. Kind of use it as a trial run. And then if that goes well, which I'm sure it would do, then bring up the main roster as a Paul Heyman guy. I think that's perfect scenario for Joe.
Yeah, I did see that tweet from Paul Heyman that, was it, interesting?
It was, yeah.
And it kind of got me thinking, well, maybe, just maybe, WWE are going to look into bringing in Joe. Like you said, I can't really see him going straight into the main roster just because of that Vince mold that he likes. But definitely Triple H should be interested in him from an NXT point of view. With TNA, I mean, just for me, going and seeing them like, what was it, a couple of weeks ago maybe, even a little bit longer, going and seeing them at Wembley, and with Joe having again a reinvented gimmick with the Beatdown Clan, that's the new faction that he was with, I was really shocked by the news because I just couldn't believe that, you've again got another guy who's majorly involved, just like AJ Styles was, and then you're going to let him leave. And it sounds like it's, again, contract negotiations which are broken down between TNA and Joe. And that just doesn't make sense. Why is TNA not trying to retain the guys that almost brought them to the dance in the first place?
It is. It's very strange the way they sort of handle the business. Because if you look at sort of the past, you've had AJ Styles, the top guy, and then his contract run out. They give him an extension. And he was still featured as a top guy, but then they've let him sort of walk away from it. Then the same thing happened with Bully Ray, and now you've got Joe as well getting this sort of bit of a push, and now he's walking away because the contract negotiations have run out. So I think they're going about it the completely wrong way. I think they need to get people locked into a contract before they start actually featuring them on TV in such big angles. But with Joe, I think it's a weird time for him to kind of walk away from TNA. I know his contract's up, but you would have thought if he was going to, it would have been at the time when others were sort of leaving, when they didn't have that TV deal in place. It seems that he's kind of waited for the wrong sort of point, in my opinion, where they've now got that deal, they've started to push on, and it's actually been really good. I enjoyed Impact, but he seems to be walking out at a point now where it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the trouble of it. Since they signed that deal with Destination America, I was expecting, these guys that are there now are all the ones that are locked in to drive the company forward. And it seems like that's not the case still, that there's still guys debating their future, whether or not TNA is the right place for them. And again, another major name leaves. The trouble is there's a lot of talk that they're trying to sign just young talent, but it still makes me think, well, just because you're signing young talent, it doesn't mean that you have to get rid of all of your originals, so to speak. And I would have kept guys like Joe, AJ, Daniels, Kazarian, Velvet Sky. I'm not sure about Bully Ray because I think he had too much power in TNA. But I would have retained all of those guys and maybe even sacrificed a Kurt Angle just to make sure that you keep that originality, because these were the guys that were there first of all. And if it's all down to money, I'm pretty sure that probably Angle's one of the top paid in the company.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's a weird situation to go for sort of trying to bring in new talent. They're bringing in a lot of young guys, but when you've got people like Joe and like the others that you mentioned, Daniels, Kazarian, they're the people that's brought TNA to the big stage in the first place. So you really want to keep them on, get them locked in, because they're the ones that everyone's sort of come to grow with over the last couple of years and the whole time that TNA has been around. So they're the ones people's invested in. If you bring in new talent, then you've got to kind of go through all that again, and it's just basically starting from scratch. Mm-hmm. But the sort of age thing as well, going back to Joe, I think, is Joe 35 now?
I think he is, yeah, he's 35, so he's not really a spring chicken.
So WWE had said the same thing, that they were trying to bring in young talent to NXT. I didn't think they were going to go over 30, but they brought in Finn Balor, and he's like 33, and that's been a huge success.
Is he really 33?
I'm sure I read he's 33. I was surprised at that, but I think if he's 33, then there's no reason that Joe shouldn't be given a shot at 35.
Well, and in addition, didn't Rhino rock up there as well?
Yeah, there's quite a few people. There's been Rhino back recently. You've got Brian Kendrick. I think I might have read Alex Riley.
Mm-hmm. It's showing a lot of how NXT is going to be more versatile, and I like we both thought it was more a case of building the young talent, but now NXT is just becoming more of a brand by itself. So with it being a brand, I guess it's not an issue to bring in these guys that are a little bit more well-known, a little bit around, travelled, and have them also boost the younger talent, which kind of makes you think, well, why doesn't TNA have that mentality? And it also makes me think, how does TNA ever go to the next level if all they're ever doing is recruiting young talent, but they don't really have that driving force? I think the only driving force they actually have is Jeff Hardy. And if he was to walk away, which you wouldn't put it past him at some point. I don't know. I don't ever know at the moment how TNA can, as much as I enjoy it, I don't know how they can move to that next level, to re-get the old days that they had when they were at the Asylum and they had massive crowds and they were just credited for a good wrestling company. I think NXT has nicked that spot.
I think it has. I think NXT is what TNA used to be, and it's the one that sort of the fans of independent wrestling and all the indie promotions, that's what they're now watching, whereas a couple of years ago that used to be TNA's spot, but it's sort of completely changed around now and NXT is the show to watch.
So do you think he's going to go to Japan? Do you think he's going to rock up in NXT? Where do you think Joe's going to end up?
I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to Japan just for a little while. Spark some interest over there, sort of reignite sort of his own career, and then go to NXT. I don't think he'll go straight to NXT, but I would love to see him go straight there. But I could see him maybe meeting up with the Bullet Club because he knows so many of the people over there with AJ Styles and people, so I can really see that happening for him.
Yeah, I'd like to see him at some point be in NXT, just for like the feuds that you could have. You could have, Balor versus Joe and Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens versus Joe would be great to watch as well. So
yeah, some amazing matches when you think of the talent that's down there.
Exactly. So, guys, let us know, because this was big news coming out of TNA this week. Where do you think Samoa Joe is going to go? That rhymes. Next up, this was an interesting one. So, yeah, as I said, it was full of news this week. Matt Hardy and my old buddy, the Disco Inferno, who subsequently, Dashing Delzinski, has now parted ways with the Disco Inferno after this spat, because he just couldn't understand what the hell was going on. So I am no longer trained by the Glenn Gilberti Wrestling Academy, so that's a shame for all you fans out there. But yes, Matt Hardy and the Disco Inferno had a bit of a spat on Twitter. We were talking about this before we came on. We can't quite understand what it was about, but it seems like I don't know whether the Disco Inferno was trying to get a bit more relevancy, Paul, by shooting off at Matt Hardy, but it almost came back to the Disco Inferno saying that Matt Hardy was one of the reasons why TNA got kicked off of Spike TV. Do you believe that?
Nah, I think he's just trying to sort of make himself a bit more relevant. I mean, I wasn't aware of it. I only followed him on Twitter this morning, and that was because I felt bad he had so few followers. But I think he's just trying to use Matt Hardy just to try and get a bit of limelight on himself. Yeah,
it was weird. I mean, this exchange was going on for a long time. It was like back and forth constantly, and some of the tweets were, I think we saw Matt Hardy say, have you seen how the Disco Inferno is creating all these make-believe fantasies that he's actually important? He's more insane than Samuel Shaw, was Matt Hardy's reference. So, I mean, it just felt like it was a bit of tongue-in-cheek from Matt Hardy. He wasn't taking it too seriously, but the Disco Inferno was quoting Hardy facts by saying that he got them kicked off of Spike. Whether or not these are Hardy facts, I don't know. But go and check out their Twitter feed, and you'll see the exchange there. And let us know what you think. I mean, is the Disco Inferno versus Matt Hardy a draw to you? Would you like to go see that, Paul?
Not for me.
But he does have the stunner as his finisher, doesn't he? Do you remember
that? No, not really.
You don't remember the Disco Inferno doing the stunner? Ah, unbelievable.
Disco who?
Oh, we're going down that route, are we? Oh dear. Anyway, I think that's the opportunity to move on and come back and be a bit more relevant, because again, Twitter off the chain, Cesaro was hacked last week, and the trend was push Cesaro. Some little keyboard warrior was it you, Paul?
It wasn't me this time.
All right, just checking. But somebody hacked into Cesaro's account and was tweeting to the WWE, so to speak, that they should push Cesaro. I don't know if this really worked. If I was going to hack an account, I wouldn't know how to, but if I was going to hack an account, I would probably say I would tweet as the person. This person took over the account and decided to tell the world just how much he loved Cesaro. A bit weird.
It was. I kind of agree they should be pushing Cesaro, but
definitely.
The tweets themselves were ridiculous. Like, I feel sorry for Cesaro if it actually stops the push that he's getting, because it's not his fault. Unlike the Rollins thing last week, where Rollins was kind of responsible. Mm-hmm. Cesaro, it's just unfortunate. It's really bad timing for him, especially when he's getting this push with Tyson Kidd. So I hope it doesn't affect him, but it's just bad luck.
Well, like you say, it's the sort of thing that Vince would probably frown upon, and it would more than likely have Cesaro punished as opposed to actually pushed. So it's kind of annoying that it's happened, and I hope it doesn't do anything, like you say, to Cesaro's push, because It's about time. I am one of Cesaro's biggest fans, and I find it so frustrating. I'm kind of still frustrated that he's a tag team, because I think he is a great singles competitor, and he should be up in the mix with the top notch. And I just hope this tag team opportunity that he's going through at the moment elevates him up to the next level again, because he was there before, and WWE decided to take that away from him. So hopefully they don't do it again.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's a phenomenal singles wrestler, and he'll get his time. It's just there's so many people in the sort of limelight with the main event and things at the minute that they kind of keep holding him back. But I think a tag team run with Tyson Kidd, I think that's exactly what will be good for him.
Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good going into Fastlane, and we will talk about Fastlane in just a few seconds. But we have one more news story today, and that was the WWE doctor filing a lawsuit against CM Punk. I think the lawsuit is, off the top of my head, for about $2 million. And yeah, Punk obviously very vocal when he left WWE about his treatment from the WWE doctors and how he felt he was mistreated and they didn't pick up things that they should have. Well, WWE has fired back, and you even showed me what WWE has posted on WWE.com. Do you wanna go through what they've actually done?
Yeah, it was surprising. The main page of WWE.com today, it shows that their response, and basically what they're doing is they're addressing CM Punk's allegations and backing up what the doctors have said, and that it is sort of false allegations. They've actually posted a video of evidence showing that CM Punk didn't have the huge sort of baseball size on his back there. The video itself, it's a strange one because there's no sort of audio on it or anything. It's just a 3.5-minute video of CM Punk's ass showing him his lower back, and there doesn't appear to be anything there. So I guess the doctors, there may be like a bit of truth in terms of what they've said, and that it wasn't the case. They're saying that there was nothing documented saying Punk had any sort of staph infection or anything until they actually got word from his lawyers, and it was mentioned in there. So they're backing up the doctors with it and saying that they have faith in them. And basically it's just throwing into doubt what CM Punk said.
Are they just trying to say that CM Punk's an arse?
I think that's the roundabout way that they're trying to get around it, yeah.
Is this another clever Vince idea that will dramatically backfire with a video just showing off CM Punk's arse?
That looks to be what it is.
I wonder how that came across. We need to get CM Punk's arse on WWE.com. I don't know. But in the seriousness of it, the lawsuit's a big deal. So will Punk speak out again? That's the question. Is Colt Cabana lining up another podcast?
Well, now WWE's made an ass of it. I think Punk will probably stay silent, just like he did before, until all this sort of lawsuit thing passes over and there's an outcome to that. But I don't know, maybe he'll address it, but I think he was probably wrong to sort of bring this all up in the first place, and it's only going to backfire now and sort of drag out longer and longer.
Yeah, we talked about the professionalism, and it didn't really come off too well when he did start firing off about the doctors. So, yeah, maybe it's a bit of karma coming back to haunt him, but we'll see how this one plays out. I'm sure we haven't heard the last of it, and I'm sure we haven't heard the last of WWE and CM Punk. So, WWE Fastlane, it's a new pay-per-view. I'm still not sure I'm very keen on the name, and I'm still not very sure I like it being the last stop to WrestleMania, but still, this is coming this Sunday. So let's have a little go through the match card, match by match. Let's give our predictions and say what we think's going to go down. So in no particular order, because to be honest, they haven't really given any idea of what the order's going to be, but I'm going to go through it how we think it's going to go down. So we've got the 6-man tag team match, which was announced. Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan and Ryback versus Seth Rollins, Kane and Big Show. And WWE I may expect this to be near the beginning, because they kind of like throwing in those sort of, tag team scramble matches and 6-man tag team matches to get the crowd going a bit. How do you think this one's going to play out? Obviously, we've seen a lot of dissension between Kane and Big Show in recent weeks. Is it all going to crumble tonight? And are we looking at a match between Kane and Big Show at WrestleMania?
I hope not. I really hope not, because it's something I don't want to see. I guess it all depends on the creative team tossing a coin to decide if Big Show is going to be heel or face. It's it's literally a case that he'll change every single week now, and I don't even know if he is heel or face. I think he's still kind of a heel at this point.
He's a feel.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? He's always been a feel. I think it's a case of they'll definitely play on the dissension between the two, and that'll probably lead to a victory for Team Ziggler. I don't know if it's elimination. Is it just a straight up one fall match?
I'm not even sure yet at the moment. I imagine it's just a one pinfall, because this one could go quite a while if it is an elimination one. So, but I don't think it's been confirmed yet. So we'll have to wait and see if they do make a further announcement. And if they do, it's only going to be via their Twitter, because they've already passed that moment now. So I'm not sure. Do you think this is going to impact Seth Rollins? Because it's not really like he's doing very much, considering he should be still playing a major part in the title picture.
Not really. I think having the briefcase, they can kind of afford to sort of just let this one fly at the moment to give Ziggler the win, because I think he's been getting quite a bit of a sort of push in things as well. So I think a win for Ziggler here, it sets him up for WrestleMania. I can see them two, Ziggler and Rollins, going at it at WrestleMania, and it's 1-on-1.
Oh, so you don't think Orton's going to come back at this pay-per-view?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see Orton, but at the moment I don't see where he would fit in. Where Rollins and Ziggler, they've had a few matches at this point, so I think a WrestleMania match would really do them well. I think they could steal the show, but whatever happens, I think Rollins is still going to cash in at WrestleMania. So it doesn't really matter too much what happens with him at Fastlane, because you know that's kind of coming down the line.
Yeah, I guess the issue is whatever comes out of the world title, not the world title match, the number one contenders match, because there was talk a little while ago about Bryan and Ziggler. So if that could go off the cards if we do have that triple threat that everyone's thinking we're going to get now. But then again, if let's say Daniel Bryan loses, and we'll talk about that later on, but if he did, then opens the door again with what's he going to do. It's still kind of unclear at the moment exactly the direction that, apart from the world title picture, what we're going to really get when it comes to a final card at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think it's all up in there. There's a lot of people like that. You've got a few different people. There's Ziggler, Rollins, Bryan. They haven't really got any clear direction. It kind of all depends on Fastlane. I think we'll know a lot more once this pay-per-view's over.
Yeah, so I mean, predictions, what do you think is going to go down? I'm going to say that I think it's going to be a Ziggler, Rowan and Ryback victory. And I think, like you said, we'll be playing it off with the Kane Big Show faction crumbling and Seth Rollins having to try and pick up the pieces after it all goes down.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Team Ziggler.
Team Ziggler. So we see eye to eye on the first match. The next one, Goldust versus Stardust, or however you want to do it. Would make some hissing noises as well, but it'll sound kind of weird. This one, I don't really get why this one's at Fastlane, to be honest with you. I think they could have done a lot better job of breaking these two up. It's been coming for a long time that we've wanted to see Goldust versus Stardust. I think I made a video about it for WrestleMania 30 that we were going to see a feud between Goldust and Cody Rhodes. So, I mean, this has been like a year in the making that these two were going to have a match. And to have it at Fastlane, I don't think it really does it justice. It's probably going to end up having some sort of match at WrestleMania as well. But why rush it after all of this? I mean, that's what it feels like to me. It's a little bit rushed.
It does, yeah. It's been something that the two of them have kind of been pushing for to happen at WrestleMania for the last couple of years. And I think it's the last 2 or 3 Royal Rumbles now we've had sort of that tease that they could turn on each other. And now we've finally got it. But it's been pushed so fast. It's surprising to see that happening in Fastlane. I would have thought they would have given it more of a slow build and had it at WrestleMania, and that's where you'll probably get the best payoff for it. But it was interesting to see I don't know if you've seen SmackDown this week.
I did.
But they had a little interview on there where Stardust sort of interrupted Goldust, but what he was saying at the time was trying to give a bit of perspective on it and say that Stardust was maybe trying to get a bit closer to his brother by taking on this whole Stardust persona. Mm-hmm. And what he said is that it's become more of a persona. It's kind of overtaken him. so that Cody's no more and this is all Stardust. So it's led to this match now where he has to try and sort of beat it out of him, basically. So he turns back to Cody. But I like the promo. It was just, I would have preferred to see more of these in the lead up to it. I think it's just come around so fast. There's not really too much of a build, and I think that's kind of going to hurt it. But the match itself, I think it'll be a great match. I think they've been planning it for quite a while. It'll probably be the weirdest match we've ever seen. But I think there'll be lots of showmanship and sort of playing to the crowd and things. So it could be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good, solid match because the two should know each other very well, and the chemistry is going to work. And it's been, like we've said, a long time in the making. But I saw that promo, but it's kind of made me think differently as to how this storyline is going to play out, because I thought it was going to be that he was going to ditch the Stardust gimmick and just return to be Cody Rhodes for the feud, because I thought the persona was all brought on by Goldust, but obviously now they've given it some sort of relevance with having it that it's overtaken Cody Rhodes and it's almost erased, or he's trying to erase it. It's a bit like it's that kind of psychological thing where he can't quite get out of it, that split personality, and I quite like that. But I think then how does it develop long term? Because are you still happy with the Stardust gimmick? Are you kind of bored with it now? And do you think that if they go down this route, there's no way to really continue the feud if the idea is that he beats Stardust out of him and he becomes Cody Rhodes? Because the minute he becomes Cody Rhodes, they're going to be back to normal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think long term, I can't see it working, but in the short term, I'd prefer him to stay as Stardust, because I'm not really a huge fan of Cody as Cody. Mm-hmm. I think being Stardust, it's given him a lot more sort of freedom to sort of express himself and sort of work the crowds and things. So that's been a lot more entertaining. But once you take him away from Goldust and they're not a tag team, I don't know if it'll work in the long term, because at the end of the day, it's basically Goldust's gimmick.
Yeah. Oh, he'll get lost in the mix again, like he always does.
Yeah, exactly.
So predictions for this one, I'm going to go with a Stardust victory.
Yeah, I agree with that one as well. I can see Stardust win this one. Kind of hope they get a WrestleMania rematch. I think they kind of deserve it. And then I could maybe see Goldust win that. But I think this one is going to be Stardust.
Yeah, I think that's the only way that this feud can prolong if Stardust gets the victory. So, yeah, I think we might be right on this one. So, next match is the WWE Tag Team Championship match. The Usos versus Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. And I'm just going to say that if Tyson Kidd and Cesaro do not win the tag team belts, I am going to go mad. Because, I really want to see a belt on Cesaro. It's been a long time, and I like this tag team. I think this is the people's tag team. This is the tag team that people like. It's the guys that aren't being pushed where the fans feel that the WWE should. So I really want to see them pick up the belts. And I also think that they really need to look at the Usos a little bit and try and make them a little bit more interesting. I'm kind of fearing that the more these two guys go on, the likeliness of WWE then splitting them up and creating a feud between the two could happen at some point, because the crowd used to love them, and they still kind of do, but I don't think, the way that they look in terms of their ring attire and stuff is anything that's that great entertaining anymore, and I think it kind of gets a little bit boring. I'm not questioning how they are in the ring, they're awesome, but the gimmick, again, whether or not it really gets over anymore is a bit questionable. So what do you think of the Usos, Paul, and what do you think Tyson Kidd and Cesaro's chances of picking up the tag belts are?
Well, I mean, the Usos, I think we've just seen too much of them over the last year. Yeah. They're entertaining, they're great in the ring, but at the same time, you can only see the stereo suicide dive so many times before you get sick of it. It's supposed to be an OMG moment in the game, but it's not really when you see it the same thing every week in every single match. And that's like the one thing that they've kind of got for them. So I think it's about time that we're seeing Tyson Kidd and Cesaro pick up the titles and then bring some of their teams in there, because they've got the Ascension now coming up. So there's one. And you've got other teams in there that they've kind of just forgot about, like Los Matadors and things. So I think it's time that they stepped away from the Usos a little bit and give some of their teams a chance. With Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, I think they're a great mix because you've got the power and strength of Cesaro and then the athletic and the speed and things of Tyson Kidd. So I think they'll work really well together. I think that's pretty much what Cesaro needs. I think a tag team title reign with Kidd, I think that'll do them both the world of good.
Yeah, I think what would be really good coming out of this if they do pick up the belts is that potential feud with the Ascension at some point because, Cesaro's the powerhouse, so he could do a lot more with the Ascension guys. And then, Kid's got that speed as well to try and, catch them off their game. I think them as a tag team would be very interesting. It looks like that the Ascension are going down a primetime players route. I imagine that could potentially rock up on the undercard of this Fastlane pay-per-view. I'm not sure yet, but I could see something like that jumping in there somehow. But I would like to see, obviously, Cesaro pick up a belt because I am a massive fan of him. And like you say about the suicide dives with the Usos, it really has been done to death. It's always the same with them. And the super kicks as well. It's not... I kind of look at a team like the Young Bucks when I do a comparison. Whenever you see the Young Bucks, it's really exciting to watch in New Japan. They always reinvent themselves. They add an additional move here or there. Maybe it's the restrictions of the WWE, but it doesn't feel like the Usos have a lot of freedom to branch out of the character that they've got. They're almost like a Cena of the tag team world.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly a case of that. I think with the Young Bucks, they've got so many different moves in the arsenal. And in Japan, they'll get the time where they can really sort of show that off. Where the Usos, because they're sort of limited quite short matches, then they tend to stick with what they know works. And I think that's something that's holding them back. And I think that's my main problem with them. It is the same thing every week. Where if they brought in a couple of new moves and things, I think that would really sort of reinvent them. I think that's what they need going forward. But going back to the Ascension, I think if they were to go up against them, it would be a classic Usos match where you see the suicide dives, super kicks. I don't think it'd be anything new. So that's why I would love to see Kidd and Cesaro actually take the belts here.
Yeah, and I don't know whether they'll be heel or face going forward, but either way, I think that it's going to do them the world of good to get on the mic and put themselves over as the tag team champion. So I think we're kind of unanimous again on this one. I think we're both going Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So the next one, the WWE Intercontinental Championship match with Bad News Barrett and the Lunatic Fringe, Dean Ambrose. So this one, again, was it rushed a bit in terms of build? I wouldn't say it was the greatest of builds. The whole thing's evolved around Barrett not wanting to sign the contract off, and then obviously he did, forcefully. But it again, I don't know. Do you know what my issue is with the Intercontinental Championship? It's still a bit like the United States one, which might change soon, but it still feels like this belt has no meaning whatsoever. Why can't there be a feud about the belt in terms of... I rarely hear Bad News Barrett big up the belt. I remember when The Rock used to come out every single week and say he was the best damn Intercontinental champ that ever was. And I just never hear that. And I want this belt to be so much more than what it is. I know these guys will probably put on a good show. I like Barrett, I like Ambrose. But again, do you really feel hugely excited that this is an Intercontinental Championship match and potentially the belt could go to Ambrose or Barrett could retain? Does it really get you thinking, yes?
It doesn't. That's the main problem. That's something that I really kind of regret about the Intercontinental Championship, because I thought this would be the second biggest title in the WWE once they merged the two heavyweight titles. But it really hasn't gone with that. It's like they say you kind of call a championship a belt, but in this scenario, the championship, it's only a belt. It's something that people wear. There's no sort of fight for it. It's I want to fight Barrett. I don't want to fight for the belt. So
yeah, that's it, isn't it? This whole feud's been Ambrose wanting to beat up Barrett, and it's just not. He just doesn't give any credibility to the Intercontinental Championship. I really want somebody to just bang on about how good they are with that belt. I really feel, I don't know who it's going to take to do that, but that's why maybe when we talk about Rusev Cena later on, that has maybe an interesting scenario in it. But I don't know. I think this will be a good match. I am looking forward to it. I think they are maybe overdoing the whole lunatic side of Dean Ambrose a little bit. I don't think they need to go as crazy as they do with him, because it does take the reflection off what the main thing should be, is it's a championship match.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, because a lot of the things that they've done with Ambrose, they've done so many things every other week that it kind of gets to the point where you don't really know what else you can do. I think a lot of the time you've just got to let him get in the ring and just show how much of a lunatic he is in the ring, instead of all these sort of segments and things. So, I don't know, I think a title win here could probably be, it's probably the best thing for him. I think it'll be the first time he's won on pay-per-view in about a year now. I think Payback was the last time he won. Mm-hmm. So that's a long time for him to go, especially someone that's sort of more of the upper card. But I think it sucked for Barrett because he's come back after a long injury. He's got that title, but he hasn't really done too much. So maybe if the title switches here and the two of them sort of have a feud that goes on, but they make it about the belt, I think that would work a lot better, and it'll kind of raise the stakes for both of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been a really poor reign for Barrett, hasn't it? He hasn't really done an awful lot at all. So this is always the issue. The belt just gets thrown about, bandied around, like nobody's business. I think, was it when we had, who was Ziggler exchanging the belt with? Was it The Miz a little while back?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, the way the belt just kept getting dropped. I mean, it's just like, it's just meaningless title reigns. There's no sort of consistency of keeping a belt on somebody and making it credible. If Ambrose wins this, though, does this make the belt better? Because, again, I sort of look at his United States Championship reign, didn't do an awful lot.
Well, that's the thing. It depends how it goes from here. If he wins it, if it's like his US title where he's just holding it and it's a case of he's the champ and it's supposed to sort of make him look good, but he doesn't actually defend it like he did the US title, and it's just sort of there for show. I think if they go down that route, it doesn't do anything for the title. Barrett might as well keep it. But if they make it so that he wants to hold it for a long time, just like he did the US title, and he makes that his target, I think that would work a lot better.
Yeah, to be honest, my prediction for this one, because I'm going to go with what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Barrett retain. So I'm going to go with Bad News Barrett for this one.
I think I'm going to go with Ambrose. I think it's time to mix it up a little. And I don't know, some of the other titles, I don't know if I can see them changing, the singles titles. So I think this one's due a change.
Do you think you'll change the strap to black? Because it's something like I've got real pet hate with that strap. I just hate it.
I don't mind the white one, actually. I think that's the only one it kind of works with.
That's what everybody says to me when I say that, but I just can't stand it. I just want someone to... If I was going to pick up that belt, I'd be changing it to black. That's for sure. Right, okay, so we disagree for the first time in our predictions. So I'm going with Barrett, you're going with Ambrose. Next up... Oh, this one's going to be fun, isn't it? The United States Championship match. Could we see the return of the spinner after this one, with John Cena versus Rusev? The champion Rusev, undefeated, has finally met Superman. And is this the end of Rusev's reign? Because like all good things, they have to come to an end, and they usually come to an end thanks to John Cena. So what do you think's going to happen in this one?
Well, I think this is a really interesting one because it's very old school in the booking with Rusev going up against Cena, because it's kind of a throwback to some of the matches that you'd see in like the 80s and things. So you've got like people like Iron Sheik and going up against patriotic wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, in this case the modern day Hulk Hogan and Cena. So we've already seen Rusev kind of run through the current day patriotic wrestlers like Swagger, where he's gone through them so many times, and now he may have met his match in Cena. But I don't know if this is the time for Cena to win. I think we'll probably see Rusev retain the title here. A lot of people said that Cena won't win purely because the title's on the line and he wouldn't hold a mid-card title. But I think what I could see is Rusev, he's kind of used some dirty tactics in the run-up to this, which again is kind of classic old-school booking. So I think it might be the same sort of thing in the match itself. Rusev will win with dirty tactics and he'll keep the title. But then these two, I'm sure they'll rematch at WrestleMania, and then the title will be on the line. and I could see Cena then getting the win and showing that sort of the US as Cena's kind of overcome this outside force. And with Cena actually winning the title at WrestleMania, I think that gives a huge load of credibility to the title. And it's also kind of a throwback to when he first won the US title. I think it was his first championship. And he won that at WrestleMania as well against the Big Show. So I think that'd be a really cool move to use for the US title, just to take that to the next level. And then also Cena versus Rusev, getting a match with Cena at WrestleMania, that's huge for Rusev as well. So it gives Rusev that rub, even if he loses to Cena, because he's had that WrestleMania match with him on the big stage and it sees how he can perform. But then it just adds so much to the US title if it's held by Cena, and it kind of takes it up the next level and maybe makes it that second biggest championship in the company.
I think it'd be a really smart move to actually put the belt, not at this pay-per-view, I agree, at WrestleMania. I think it would be a really smart move to have Cena pick up the United States Championship on the basis that we just talked about the Intercontinental Championship not having that relevance. Giving it to Cena gives a whole new dimension to that belt. It really brings it back to like when it was relevant, when he held it the first time round. It was a huge thing. It was a big deal. The United States Championship meant a lot, and it hasn't meant a lot for a long time. So I can see that scenario definitely coming out. In this match, the other option that they could go down is, how about to really make Rusev look seriously strong? Could he put him in the camel clutch, because you did mention the Iron Sheik? Could they put him in? Could he put him in the camel clutch, or is it called the accolade? I think it is. But could he put him in that and then completely take Cena out? So Cena never taps out. Cena never gives up. You know, that's John Cena to a T. But Rusev knocks him out. A bit like a flashback of Survivor Series with Bret Hart and Austin, where Austin never quit, but he passed out. Could you see something like that happening, and then Cena coming back and saying, well, I never gave up, and then that moving forward?
I think that could be a case of what happens. I think that'd be a good way for it to actually go down. It really puts over Rusev, especially if he was to then lose at WrestleMania, because he's got that win over Cena. And it's something that I don't think a lot of people will be expecting. I think a lot of the younger fans will be expecting Cena to win it anyway. So I think that would be a really good way to actually go about it. But I think Cena's character at the same time, he has lost quite a lot with Lesnar and people in the past. So it kind of devalues sort of Cena at the minute. But at the same time, I think it's much more beneficial for Rusev. So I would be really happy with that.
As long as it's not a flashback of the Nexus when he was meant to put over Barrett and he didn't.
Yeah, if it's a complete squash match and Cena just wins this in 3 minutes, then I can't see it happening. It's got to be Rusev.
I would like maybe something like Cena's going to hit a move, the referee gets knocked down, Lana maybe just... What would be good is to involve Lana and maybe have her clock Cena with the United States belt in the back of the head, and then he puts on the camel clutch, cinches it in, referee comes round, Cena's out, rings the bell, and then you can build from there that it wasn't a fair fight, and we can move to WrestleMania and have that rematch.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. That's kind of the sort of dirty tactics that I was talking about.
Yes.
I think Lana's got to get involved at some point. She's such a big part of this whole feud herself. So if she was to do something that would ultimately cause Cena to lose, I think that's the perfect way to go about it.
So do you think, then, that Rusev is going to crush John Cena, or do you think John Cena is going to be stronger than ever and attitude adjust Rusev?
Got to be crush.
Right. Good, because that's what I'm going for. I mean, people probably would never think anything less from me, being a huge John Cena fan. Yeah. But we're going Rusev. We're going Rusev. So we're back on track. We're seeing things the same way. Next up... WWE Divas Championship match between Nikki Bella versus Paige. I'm sure Elle from the Revolution will love this match.
You don't seem too excited by this?
Well, I don't really like what they're doing with Paige at all. I mean, now Paige has become this sort of total diva as well. The storylines just really don't match up to the Total Diva program. I mean, not that I watch it constantly, but it just... it just spoils these rivalries. And as we both watched NXT Takeover Rival, and we know how good women's wrestling can be by watching that. And this won't be about something like that. I think it'll be a good match, don't get me wrong. I think Nikki Bella definitely holds her own, and Paige obviously can. But I don't really like the way that the gimmicks are being developed for the Divas in the main roster. I just don't buy it. I also think as well, is there going to be some sort of payoff with Brie Bella at some point? Because I think we've all forgotten that Nikki really did humiliate Brie at points, and I don't really think Brie's the better out of the two twins. I think Nikki is the better in-ring performer. But are we ever going to get closure on that storyline where she maybe stitches up her sister and actually gets a match with her at WrestleMania? Because that's what they were kind of building towards a long time ago, and then they just forgot about it.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't forget about. That's exactly what I'm looking forward to in this match, because surely this has got to be the point where we get some kind of payoff for that. It was completely forgotten about, and it was wrote off, and that was just ridiculous. It made no sense at all for Brie to suddenly align herself with Nikki. The problem is, because this is a title match, if she costs Nikki the title, then it kind of screws her out of a title match at WrestleMania. But at the same time, I would prefer her to cost Nikki the title and then give Paige the title so she can get a title match at WrestleMania, because I think she's the diva that kind of deserves that after the year that she's had.
What could work, but I don't think this is going to happen, because I can't see two Divas matches. Sorry to say, Divas fans, I can't see two Divas matches being on the card at WrestleMania. But what they could do is she could cost Nikki the title, and then Paige could face someone like a Charlotte Flair going in, so we could bring Charlotte up. I mean, let's look at the way Paige came up to the roster. She came up and took it by storm. I can still see you doing something like that with Charlotte Flair, because Charlotte Flair is ready to go. And so they could maybe have that title match, which I think a lot of people would like to see. And then you could have the Nikki and Brie Bella feud. But Brie is not very good. I'm gonna put that out there. I don't rate her mic skills, and I think that Nikki kind of washes her away in terms of ability as well.
Well, I kind of thought the opposite before, but now I'm sort of seeing that. I think Nikki's come on a lot more since that title reign.
Oh, Brie's not really done a lot, has she? She hasn't really had.
Well, that's the thing. She's kind of took a back seat at the minute, and again, it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's surely got to be something that's going to happen at this pay-per-view to kind of explain what's gone on. But in regards to Charlotte, I think what I would love to see is Paige pick up the title, but then I can't see Charlotte coming up until the Raw after WrestleMania like Paige did last year. And I think that's exactly what you want. I think the end of WrestleMania is sort of the reboot point.
Yeah.
Where everything starts afresh. And if they take the Divas division in a new direction, I think Paige and Charlotte is the perfect way to go with that. What I had heard previously, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but what it said was anyone that was on Total Divas couldn't actually hold the championship.
Oh, really?
And yeah, well, basically it was just a case of trying to keep them separate. I don't know what the main reasons behind it were, if it kind of spoiled sort of what was going to happen or something, because it's sort of so out of sync. I think it's like 3 months behind or something. So if you had someone that was the champion on Total Divas, then they may not be the champion then on TV.
Oh, I see. Is it worth having Total Divas then?
That's the thing. I was going to ask you the question basically. Do you think that Total Divas is kind of spoiling the Divas division in general? How do you see how has Nikki's reign kind of impacted the Divas division as a whole in your opinion? Has it improved it? Has it brought more attention to it with Total Divas, or has it kind of just gone the opposite direction?
I don't think it's improved the Divas division at all. I quite like her reign. I like her gimmick, but it doesn't make any sense in relation to everything else, because she's a heel, John Cena's a face. If you're going to take into all of the side of Total Divas, then you have to look at all the things that are going on. Why would John Cena, and this is where all kayfabe and everything comes up, but you know, it's you can't buy into this when it comes to the WWE product. You look at Nikki Bella and you think to yourself, well, she's like a real heel. Why would Cena want to ever look at something like that? You know, and the Divas bit in general, I think they just need to cut that out. It's a women's division, and I know that will never happen because Vince loves his Divas and they've got to be looking a certain way, blah, 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 blah. But I think that they really need to get back to the basics, and NXT showed what it can happen when you do just focus on wrestling and pro wrestling. And I know it's sports entertainment, but they need to get back to that way of looking at things. I don't really think that Total Divas adds a lot to the women's division, if you want to call it that. It just glorifies, again, that whole reality era that Triple H has banged on about. I don't think it does anything for the wrestling community. And I don't think, if you asked proper Divas fans or women's wrestling fans, do they appreciate that it's called Divas? I don't think they do.
Yeah, exactly. I think in regards to the title, I think Total Divas just kind of spoils it. I think what they should do is keep them separate. So you've got the Total Divas match, and then you've also got the championship match. And then that allows you just to have two women just go at it and sort of make it about the wrestling. And it's not about the storylines or the reality or anything like that. It's just purely about the wrestling. And that's what you get in NXT, and that's what makes it so good. And then you've still got the Total Divas thing on the side. So it doesn't really affect that program. You've still got that going on.
Would you watch that match though? Let's say it had two on the card. Would like something like the Divas match where it was maybe, I don't know, Nikki Bella versus I don't know, Eva Marie? Would that be like your bathroom break? You know, would it get over? Because you know it wouldn't be that great wrestling because it's all about the Divas side.
Did you just suggest Eva Marie get a match on pay-per-view?
Yeah, what's the problem with that? Got to get her a WrestleMania moment, haven't I?
Oh, I don't know if I could stomach that one. That's probably the point where a line is being crossed.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, if there was two matches on there, I wouldn't mind it. I think one, it's completely separate. So you've got a match where it's more storyline driven, and if they give it some kind of payoff for Brie Bella, then I think that's something that I've been waiting for. That's some resolution in there, and then you've also got that other match to look forward to where it's purely about the wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not that I bash the Divas division, but it's just when you watch things like NXT, there's so much more that they could do, and they just don't utilize it enough, and it's all because they're so confused with this crossover with reality, and like you said, maybe driving the two apart. Whether or not that means a good thing in terms of like a Divas roster, I don't know, because you're almost saying that these people can't even be considered as champions. So
yeah, well, I was watching a video this week, and it was an interview that Nikki and Brie were doing at some kind of convention event, and they'd been asked the question sort of about NXT, and what Brie had actually come out and straight up said was that she wouldn't want to actually be called up if she was in NXT. She would prefer to stay down there. And then she went on to talk about how sort of the matches are so different, but it's because they only get sort of 3 to 4 minutes to put on a match, where their dream is what's happening in NXT, where they're getting 20 minutes to put on a full match, and it's just so much better for it. But whether it's Vince or Triple H or whoever's running the show, not giving them the time, that's kind of the main thing that's spoiling the Divas matches.
It's really bad.
You can't tell a story in 3 minutes, where if you get 20 minutes like in NXT, that's perfect to do that.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it? When you've got the main roster people coming out and saying they'd rather be on NXT.
Yeah, exactly.
So where do you think this one's going to go? Do you think she's going to retain? Do you think Paige is going to pick up the belt? Do you like where Paige is going as well?
Well, she's gone from anti-diva to total diva, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think I'm leaning towards Paige winning. I think she deserves it, but I think it might be by DQ.
Yeah, I'm still just waiting for this big payoff between Nikki and Brie. Whether it happens, I just don't know. But
if it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. I'm gonna go the same as you. I'm gonna go with a Paige win. I think that's best for women's wrestling overall.
Yep.
Right. It's number one contenders time. Roman Reigns, the Royal Rumble winner, which kind of wasn't worth winning after all, versus Daniel Bryan. This is the big one. This is the one that definitely should be the main event. There were some questions about whether Rusev and Cena would be a main event.
Nah, I can't see that happening.
I would hate to see that happen. But yeah, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, #1 contenders match. I've quite enjoyed Roman Reigns since the Royal Rumble. Do you know what I loved about the Raw brawl that they had when Daniel Bryan battered him with that chair and Reigns just completely no-sold it and just jabbed him straight in the face. I really liked that whole that smash mouth action. I used that term a lot, but I just really thoroughly enjoyed that. And what I like about Bryan is this is a more determined and aggressive Bryan. I know he had that a bit with the Authority, but I feel like since he's come back, he's got that more than ever.
Yeah, they've actually got this right now. I think Roman Reigns, the booking up the Royal Rumble where he had them goofy promos and everything, it was just terrible. But now since the Rumble, they've kind of started to right them wrongs. And the way he's been booked, it's been a lot better. And then Daniel Bryan as well, with his aggression as well. I think there's a lot of respect in wrestling these days. So they could have gone down the route where both of them respect each other and they don't want to sort of get in any kind of brawl until the match itself. But I think that's totally wrong. I think what they've done on Raw is the best thing they could possibly do. And that's just have the two of them go at it in an all-out brawl. And that's exactly what you want going into a pay-per-view because it really sets it up and it shows you how much they're fighting for what's on the line.
Yeah, and it was quite nice, the whole the bit where it was almost that respect where they went to shake hands and then they thought, you know what, look, let's just go for this. And it just shows how much it means. They both want that #1 spot. They both want to go on and face the Beast. Is the Beast going to be at Fastlane? Is he going to grace us with his presence?
I could possibly see him showing up, yeah. I think this one, there's no way they're going to sort of turn back on what they've done with Reigns and not have him sort of get that WrestleMania match. So the only way I can see this sort of ending and the fans actually agreeing with it and being happy instead of the uproar that we had at the Royal Rumble is if it's a draw. So the outcome that you've got with that is either a count out, disqualification, or maybe Lesnar just come down to ringside and just take out both of them with an F5.
Yeah, I could either see Lesnar doing that or both of them wearing each other out so much that it's a double countdown and they're both like almost last man standing, but neither of them get up. I think we're definitely going to see this triple threat now. I would like to see a fatal four-way, even though I know Rollins has got the briefcase. I just think it would then crush that whole scenario of, we saw a triple threat last year. I'd like to see the fatal four-way. I think Lesnar would thrive in that sort of scenario as well. But this match is going to be good. I think, although we say Reigns is kind of limited with his moveset, I think he's kind of stepped it up a bit for Daniel Bryan.
He has. Like, the last couple of weeks, I think that's been a lot better from Reigns, the way that he's sort of handled things. And even though we may get a triple threat match again, when you look at the triple threat match at the Royal Rumble, I think that was so much better having the three people in there. Mm-hmm. It's just all about how well it works together. But when you've got someone like Daniel Bryan in there, I think he'll be the person that kind of pulls it all together.
Yeah, the contrast of styles is going to be amazing again because you got the two powerhouses and then you've got Bryan who, can pick up the pace and get the crowd going again because when you have these two big guys, and this is something that Vince always seems to fail to realise, is when you do have the two bigger guys in the ring, it can become slow, it can become boring. You need that little guy to really, change the momentum of the match, and Daniel Bryan always does that. When we talked about suicide dives from the Usos, you can't get enough of Daniel Bryan's one because it's that moment when he goes to do it. It just hypes the crowd. It's something that the Usos just don't have.
Yeah, he just totally puts everything into it. And that change of style, that's exactly what you want in this match. Because if it was a singles match like it looked to be, and you had the two powerhouses going at it, then if you think back to something like Lesnar and Goldberg, then
yeah,
that's not what you want. I think people have seen enough of things like that in the past. You know how it's going to go. Where Daniel Bryan, it's that sort of the unexpected. You don't know what's going to happen. So anything could happen. It changes everything up, and it's just something different. Even if it is the same triple threat as last year, I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's just whoever's in the match, they're going to make the match, not the fact that it's a triple threat match or a singles match.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm looking forward to this one because I think I actually think that Reigns is going to put on a good show. It's going to be interesting how the crowd plays this one as well, because is Reigns just going to walk into a real cauldron of booze, or is he going to have some of the fans on his side as well?
I think he'll be quite mixed. I think these last couple of weeks, I think fans have warmed to him again. So it all goes down to how the match plays out. I think in a lot of cases, if a match ends in a draw and it's a double disqualification or things, then fans can get a little irritated with it being a cheap ending. But I think in this scenario, it's the one time where I think a lot of people will actually take that outcome as being the best outcome. And if it goes to a brawl and it's a double disqualification and these two are just beating the crap out of each other, if it goes around the arena, I think that'd be great. I think that's what I want. I want to see them just go at it, an all-out brawl, and then Lesnar come down, and that kind of ends it with Lesnar standing over the both of them.
That would look great, because it really does put it in for WrestleMania, and it really drives it forward. It drives the storyline forward, as opposed to having someone win and then trying to then reintegrate that other person back into the mix to get him in the title picture again. Almost a no contest would make it perfect. I think as well with Reigns, it will be letting him do his talking by being in the ring more, and that's what they've started doing. That's for me the best course of action for Roman Reigns, who still needs to improve his mic skills, but you don't need that if you can do things like you did on Raw, where you just, out and out beat the crap out of your opponent and they give it back to you. That's what I've liked about Reigns since the Royal Rumble moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's what they've got right. That's the big change that they've made. So it doesn't rely on these sort of scripted promos and things. You can just go out there and show what you can do, and I think that's much better for him.
So, you're going for a no contest then?
Yeah, I'm going to go for the draw on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree, and I would like to see Lesnar rock up as well. Woo! Last but not least, the whole the authority is being laid down by the game, Triple H, as he wants that face-to-face confrontation with the vigilante, that is Sting. This is a very interesting one. I've loved the way that they've built to this. I think it's really brought back the nostalgia of Sting, something that TNA definitely never ever made the use of. But it's great to see Triple H. Triple H's acting throughout this has been awesome. I loved the segment between him and Ric Flair. The way that Flair was just so cocky and then just bang, shoved him over. And it was like, you listen to me, you can't do what Triple H could do to Sting. And it was awesome. It was wicked to see. And I think it's really, built this feud up with that Sting just sits, behind watching, waiting for things to play out. And then what we're going to get in this face-to-face confrontation, I don't think anybody quite knows. I'm going to go for face-to-face, a bit like what we saw at the Survivor Series, with some mind games first of all, and then a Scorpion Death Drop. And Sting maybe just standing over Triple H and leaving again, and leaving Triple H to shout and scream in the coming weeks that he wants a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's no chance that these two are just going to go out there and civilly discuss their issues with each other. So it's going to be a case of a few more mind games from Sting, which is something that I've really loved the way that I've done that. I think they've really played that off well. So I can see that maybe happening just to sort of get in the head of Triple H. And then when Sting does come down to ringside, I think it'll ultimately break down. Triple H will maybe try and get a cheap shot in. But I think Sting will get the upper hand of this, drop him with the Scorpion Death Drop. And then that's going to rile Triple H, lead him up to sort of setting up that match at WrestleMania and just challenging Sting, saying that he wants him one-on-one. And then I think that's a good way to go about it.
I think the less talking from Sting, the better. I don't really want Sting to talk. It's flashbacks of the old WCW days from him in the rafters, and I like that version of Sting. I think, again, almost a bit like Reigns, do your talking in the ring and do the damage. And the more that they don't let Sting talk, the more it leads to why he's actually doing this, why he's decided to pick a fight with Triple H, because we don't know yet why that is. Is he doing it for someone else, or is he doing it because, well, we just don't know. And that's what I like about it. It's the mystery of Sting, and kind of reminds me, it's almost as if he's taken The Undertaker's place this year to play those mind games.
He has, yeah. I think mentioning The Undertaker, it's something that they've done a couple of years ago. I think it was Triple H and The Undertaker where they sort of come out and they didn't say anything, and that led into the match. So I think if Sting was to do something similar, and just sort of stay quiet and not say anything, then just that fact alone, that'll rile Triple H.
It's gonna be interesting to see what goes down. I can imagine Triple H talking a lot of smack to Sting. It's just whether or not he responds by speaking back. I hope he doesn't. I hope he just sort of. Well, I hope that he just doesn't really just come out straight away. I want it to all be, the lights out. The definitely deserves another promo on the screen to video package to try and screw with Triple H's head a bit more, and then he makes his. I would have it like the old days when the lights go out, comes back on, he's standing behind him. That's the way I'd work it. But it's going to be interesting because this is probably one of the biggest builds going into WrestleMania 31, and it's definitely living up to expectation because I think we all were hoping it was going to be Sting Taker, but Triple H has definitely filled the void big time. Yeah,
well, I think this kind of makes up for The Undertaker not being there. There's still sort of Bray Wyatt, maybe like trying to force The Undertaker's hand, bring him into a match. But even if Undertaker doesn't come back, I think this is the sort of replacement match where Sting's kind of taken on sort of The Undertaker's position in this case. One thing I was going to ask you was, they've kind of built this as the WWE versus WCW, mentioning Sting as being the face of WCW.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see in the future that maybe they could like build on that and maybe bring back some other WCW talent as kind of not so much a faction, but maybe like a WCW one night stand? Do you see that, or do you think maybe the time's been and gone for that?
I would love to see something like that, but I don't think Vince would do it. I don't think he'd be willing to do it because, the way that they treated the WCW almost when they took over it, it didn't really do a lot of justice to many of those WCW guys. So it would be nice to see, but I think that their product is so orientated on the WWE and NXT that if they started dropping WCW more and more into the name, I think it would confuse a lot of the younger fans, which kind of annoys me. But I just think that's Vince's mentality. But that's not to say that I wouldn't want to see it. Do you know, to respond on that as well, I was listening to Taz's podcast last week, and he mentioned something that I found interesting as well, that Triple H's promos where he's been saying, Sting came back, he'd been missing for X amount of years, and then, he was in WCW, and then he disappeared. That's the exact one. He was gone. Now, Taz's point of view, and he said it's not because he's TNA. He's not because he works for TNA, but he said it degrades the business in terms of the wrestling industry that Triple H doesn't even acknowledge that Sting was still an active performer at the time. Now, do you agree with that, or do you think that they've done this the right way, where they don't even recognise that he's been elsewhere?
Well, I can understand why they didn't sort of mention it and sort of name drop TNA or anything like that, but I think they could have at least sort of made out that he has still been active and wrestling in other places, and that now he's only sort of finally come around to sort of take on what you should have done like years ago in terms of defending WCW. So I think it does devalue the business when you kind of just don't acknowledge anything that he's done in, is it like the past 10 years or so?
Yeah, I think that the only thing I'd majorly agree with Taz is they could have said, you decided to go elsewhere, and they could have hinted that they don't have to say TNA, they don't have to say anything like that, but they can say you decided to go elsewhere when you should have came here to defend the name of WCW, and they could have done something like that. So I kind of agree with Taz to that extent, but I think the reason why they don't do it, not just because they don't like to promote any other products really in general, but The reason why they've done it is because they want to keep that focus majorly on that. I think he was the franchise player, you know, the last of the WCW guys that really never made the jump, and now he's decided that his time is now. And I think they don't want to confuse the matter that it's all about Sting has finally decided to interject himself into the WWE.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just that. I think bringing up WCW, it's a smart move because it gets fans that were interested in WCW back interested in it.
The only thing I'd say to you, I mean, to sort of close off We Talk this week, this is my question for you with Sting, is and it's a bit random. I'm not going to lie. Would you have cut his hair off? I shocked you with that one.
No, not really. I would have dyed it.
I would have dyed it. Yes.
But I think if you cut it off, then it's not Sting anymore, is it?
Well, you could say that, but the Undertaker did it.
He did, but when you first come back in, you want to be recognisable. You want to look as you did. If you're looking completely different, then they're showing all these sort of old footage of Sting and things to try and sort of introduce new people to him. You don't want him looking too different. So I can see why he's sort of still looking the same. But I would have gone for the dye. I think just wet his hair, dye. It'll look a lot better.
When he came, I've watched Survivor Series again since he rocked up, and it's just. It's the hair that kind of that makes it like it's an old Sting, you know. They've spent quite a lot of effort, you know, doing everything else. They could have at least, you know, just said to him, you know, we need to try and get you sorted in this aspect. And I hope he wrestles without a t-shirt, because that's another pet hate that I've got.
Yeah, I can't see him wrestling without it. I mean, it's been a long time since he wrestled without a t-shirt.
He's got an, you know, he's still physically there to not have to wear that t-shirt. I'm sure of it. Taker does it. Yes, he does.
I don't know.
He's had a year to train for this.
I don't think you'll wear. If he gets a WrestleMania match, I think you'll just go with his normal look. I don't think you'll have a t-shirt on there.
Good.
I think you'll be in training for this for quite a while, so he's bound to be in great shape.
Well, I saw him the last time round when he was in. He came over here and he actually got injured, and he was still able to move pretty well even when he picked up his injury. So he can still go. That was probably a couple of years ago now, though. But I still think he's got it in him. I think he probably has better in-ring movement than Taker does at the moment, because Taker looked knackered last year. I kind of worry how bad he will be when he makes his return, if he does, against Bray Wyatt. It's going to be difficult for Bray to carry Taker, I think, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, I can't wait to see Sting in the ring at some point. It's a long time overdue.
It is. It should have happened years ago, but at least it's finally here.
Exactly. So that kind of brings us to a close of another We Talk. Paul, thank you very much for joining me, aka SmackTalks. It's been great to have you here today. Did you want to do any sort of plugs, you know? Go for it.
Well, first off, in regards to Fastlane, if you want to try and predict the outcome of the matches, then you can head over to the SmackTalks site, smacktalks.org/predictions, and submit your own predictions for the league. And I'll be posting the results on Monday morning so you can see how well you've done. Other than that, I may have some interesting news in regards to a new wrestling game next week, but I'll let you know more about that closer at the time. And that's pretty much it.
Sounds very interesting indeed. And yeah, definitely head over to SmackTalk site and put your predictions in. I've got a shout out for somebody just before we head off. The shout out is for, it's on Twitter, it's the Griff9979, and he wants to be Daniels approved, Bagwell approved. Not sure if we're Bagwell approved anymore. Weeds approved and Delzinski approved. So you wanted the whole shebang and you have got it. So,
SmackTalks approved too.
Oh, forgot that one. That one as well. Wow. That's a one-off.
It is. The only one. It's an elite club, this.
The one in however many episodes it's been of We Talk. Wow. Yeah, if you want to check out some simulations, they're not really simulations. We tried to bring a bit of realism to things. Then go and check out. I'll leave it in the link. I'll link obviously SmackTalks details as well. But go check out our matches for Fastlane. You can go and check out some of the outcomes. Maybe we've predicted them right, but they're pretty good. They've got some good ones. I'd recommend Barrett versus Ambrose. Ballhammer. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But it's all good. And yep, until another We Talk, I'm off to go find Weeds now. I'm not entirely sure where he's gone with Mike Tenay, but surely someone cannot take that amount of pain for that period of time. Hanging around with Mike Tenay is not a good one at all. Paul, maybe, just maybe, you'd like to come back for WrestleMania for a bit of a preview of that?
Absolutely, I'm in.
Excellent stuff. Cool. So, this is SmackTalks and Delzinski signing out for another We Talk. And don't forget, hashtag We Talk Weekend.